Hello and welcome to the first Evolution of Medicine weekly videocast. I'm James Maskell and I'm here with my co-host Gabe Hoffman. Welcome, Gabe.
Hey, James. Excited to be here.
So we know that practitioners don't have a lot of time, and we thought about the idea of wrapping up the weekly news for practitioners every week, what you need to know, but also things that Gabe and I thought were either funny or amusing throughout the week. So we're going to try and keep it short and get to some of the topics that were making news in the last week. Thanks so much to HealthWave for sponsoring our first videocast. If you're not using HealthWave, you can go to goevomed.com/HealthWave, sign up for a free account. It is by far the most effective way to build your professional supplement system. And so we're excited, and thanks to them for providing sponsorship for this. So the first topic we're going to talk about, this didn't really happen this week, but I wanted to just bring it up because it's so awesome. The American Medical Association has urged a ban on TV drug ads. What do you think about that, Gabe?
Yeah, this was obviously big news for anyone who watches TV and anyone who watches sports in the NFL like myself. I spend most of the day on Sundays watching football and watching drug ads and watching erectile dysfunction ads for the most part.
Which is your favorite one?
Yeah. We were talking about it before. I've really enjoyed the competition between the, I guess it's, I can't remember the names of the drugs now, but basically it's like Viagra is going against the other one. And
Cialis.
Yeah, Cialis. So Cialis now is got this great thing going where it's like, why, when the mood is right, like why run to the bathroom? You have to get yourself set up. But it's crazy because all the time when the mood is like usually when these people are out in public, like hanging out, eating, they're definitely not in a situation where anything can go down. Or I love those commercials, and I will miss those ones.
Well, it's interesting. We'd love to hear from you listening what your favorite drug ads are, but we'd be happy if they went away. It's interesting because this could be the death of two industries simultaneously. Could be the death of pharma because this is where they spend $6 billion a year on advertising on TV, and majority of stuff is actually built from that. The demand. Ask your doctor if this drug might be right for you. How many doctor's appointments are actually being driven by this because you actually have to go in and ask the doctor. And then also maybe the death of TV, because you see that all of these companies, the majority of their ads are pharmaceutical companies. If this went away, maybe that'll be the death of TV. And I can't see that this is a bad thing at all. No,
that's actually a really interesting point. Who is paying for TV other than pharmaceutical companies now? I remember when I was at the a conference a couple of years ago, and I sent you the slide they had. It said, ask your doctor if getting medical advice from a TV is right for you. And it was just such an absurd, we've been living in such an absurd time where literally you're sitting there watching TV and you're being told that A, you might have this problem, B, this is what you should ask about taking, and C, here's all the things that could definitely might happen to you if you take it. And it's an endless list. We all know that, but it's like, what is going to happen to the TV experience? Because we've almost all become desensitized to it. I've watched people talk about taking an anti-anxiety medication that will make you physically commit suicide. It's not just suicidal thoughts. It's actually pushing you to take actions, and they have to say it. And what I've really found interesting is they've gotten so good at how to design these commercials that they have a way of showing pictures of people laughing and having fun with each other while the voice is telling you that you might kill yourself if you take this thing. And it's all day long. So it's become a really surreal part of life is to watch these. And sometimes they're drugs for like coughing. It's like, if you're coughing too much from your asthma, take this, but it's like the side effect is you might just jump off a building. So, and we've all gotten into used to it. And I just don't even know what the ramifications are, but clearly they've been paying for a lot of TV.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I think this is going to be exciting, and good on the American Medical Association. It's not often that I'm applauding them because if you look at the things they've done to the chiropractic profession and other things, I think this is part of their redemption or their shadow. So that was good news.
So hard to trust them, right? To where I'm like, why are they doing this? Is there did the drug companies, are they losing money on this and they want to get out of it? Or but who knows?
Who knows? Anyway, let's get on to the next one. This was came up this week, and this is a bit of a harrowing photo. But in Flint, Michigan, there's so much lead in children's blood, they declared a state of emergency. Now, at the last functional forum, we talked about toxicity. You know, for years, the holistic professions have been maligned by the fact that, oh, what are these mystery toxins that you talk about? What is detoxification? This thing isn't real. It doesn't exist. It exists in Flint, Michigan at record levels, and it's a state of emergency. You know, it's a very harrowing picture, but I think the empowering thing about this is that people are realizing this is a problem.
Where did you get this picture?
It's everywhere, man. This was on the Washington Post. This was taken from the...
Was this the moment that this woman found out that there was lead in children's blood?
No, that they weren't going to do anything about it, or that they knew about it for a year and a half. They changed their water supply. They tried to save money. Instead of getting the money from Detroit, you know, water from Detroit, they got it from somewhere else. And then people was, you know, right from the beginning were saying, hey, this is a problem. The kids are acting weird. This is what's going down. They're like, no, it's fine. No big deal. And then they have this situation where they finally admit, oh yeah, we changed the water supply. There's record levels of lead. The fact that your kid's banging their head against the wall is not like something that is just in your mind. We've been poisoning them with lead from the water. And now this is the grandparent being like, I knew this all along. I can't believe it. You've, you know, done this to my kids. It's not funny, but you know, it is crazy.
That is unbelievable. I mean, yeah, that's one of those stories that is horrifying. And at the same time, it's nice to hear it. You know, there's so many, and I guess those of us that are into the evolution of medicine and functional medicine, and we've heard so many terrible stories that don't get reported in the news about, you know, links to different maybe drugs or toxicities, children, you know, becoming autistic, and all these stories that don't get reported. It's always bittersweet to see something like this, because you're kind of like, God, that's terrible to hear, but geez, I'm really glad that a bunch of people who I know who would never see this story, now they're seeing it because it's out in mainstream media.
Yeah,
right?
It's trending on Facebook, exactly. So, you know, that's one story. And then the next story that came out also this week that I think leads nicely onto that is cancer is not just bad luck. So, you know, last year or earlier this year, researchers sparked a debate after suggesting 2/3 of cancers were down to luck rather than other factors. Now in this new one, they're saying that only 10 to 30% is of basically of genetics, and everything else is an epigenetic effect. And their experts said this analysis was pretty convincing. Gabe, I mean, you've been face to face with this horrible disease. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the choice of words, bad luck, is such a great, you know, I can tell you when I was 17 when I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, which was a lymphatic cancer, and certainly the only thing that you thought was the cause of it was luck. I mean, there's no doubt that was my initial thought, was like, oh, this is your luck, you know, which is an absurd thought in a way. But when you're 17, what do you really know? Well, by the way, not just 17-year-olds think this. Like, there's a large part of the population that figure, hey, if I got cancer, you know, that would just be my luck in life. And the underlying message there is that you are helpless to affect this. No choices you make affect the health of your body. And you know, what was life-changing for me, and what obviously led us to where we are right now making this news report, you know, was when I started to take a proactive approach in my health and realize that it's not based on all luck. Maybe there's a, you know, that doesn't mean that we're 100% in control of every factor that's going to determine cancer, because there's a lot of it we don't know about. But the idea that it's luck in any area of life is just so absurd, right?
Well, then they say, oh, what can you say about the kid that's like gets cancer when they're 2 years old? That must be luck. But then you say, well, look, there's been lead in the water for 10 years. And now we've proven, and the Endocrine Society is saying, there's transgenerational epigenetics. So it's not all luck. It's decisions that we've made that are just now playing themselves out. It's horrifying, but at least people are starting to realize that there is a leverage that they have on these chronic diseases. And that has to be good for the integrative medicine world, because it's going to drive more people into your practice in the same way that those drug ads used to drive people into the mainstream practice.
And look, at the end of the day, people have been getting sick since the beginning of time. Things happen, and what we do is we try to learn as much as we can about it so that we can do the best job at fortifying ourselves and putting ourselves in the best position to be healthy. It's not going to be perfect 100% of the time. There's always an unforeseen factor. But what's frustrating for us today in this community is that there are many factors that we are aware of that other people are not aware of. So they're not putting themselves in the best position that they could. And that's really where we want to bridge the gap of misinformation.
Absolutely. All right. Speaking of crazy stories, this came out on Monday. Vegetarian and healthy diets can be more harmful to the environment. Carnegie Mellon study finds eating lettuce is 3 times worse in greenhouse gas emissions than eating bacon. Gabe, you've been a vegetarian. You've also been paleo. What do you think of this?
Yeah, this is a major plot twist in a story that seems to have no answer. I mean, I definitely, when I was going through different years of being different, diets, I would study most propaganda on any of them and try to convince everyone that could hear me that I was right and that they should change whatever they were doing. And definitely one of them was like, hey, if you eat a vegetarian diet, like, we're going to get rid of all the environmental problems.
Well, dude, Arnie said that at Paris last week to all those things. Arnie was like, yeah, you've got to eat more lettuce. And now this comes out the Monday afterwards.
Well, he's always on the cutting edge, as you know. But yeah, I mean, and then basically this is saying that bacon is much better for the ozone layer or something. So, I don't know. I think most news does, it reminds you how little we know. Not typically, it doesn't remind me of how much we know. It reminds us how little we know because it changes every day.
Exactly. And it's funny, like the news tries to sort of set us right about what's true and what's not, but actually it ends up being an incredibly divisive force.
Right. I mean, what's going to happen with the lettuce versus the bacon people? That could be an epic, battle with, global warming is on the line, possibly.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, one more story that came up, and this gave me a certain amount of satisfaction. If you remember Martin Shkreli, he's the CEO of Turing Pharmaceuticals that bought this pharmaceutical company and raised the prices ridiculously for people. So it turns out that he was doing some dodgy stuff on the side, including fraud, and now he's arrested. So I think it's a great day for those of us that don't feel like pure profitability in medicine is a good way, and I'm glad that he's getting his comeuppance. What about you, Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story. I had the first time I had heard of him was that he was the guy who bought the Wu-Tang Clan album's $2 million album. They had secretly, James, I don't know if you know this, secretly the Wu-Tang Clan worked on an album for 6 years and only made one copy of it. And they sold it for like $2 million to this. And this is the guy who bought it. And so until that, I didn't really know much about him until now. So he has the Wu-Tang album and it's been seized, I believe.
Well, look, I hear that Wu-Tang put something in the contract that they can take that $2 million album back from him if either they steal it or Bill Murray steals it.
And, it's a great story to get to today because it really encompasses the absurdity that is life now, where the same guy who is participating in maybe one of the most corrupt industries doing, and he's so corrupt that he was in that industry and he's the one who got arrested. He was doing something so odd in the pharmaceutical industry, but he also is involved in a contract where Bill Murray can steal a $2 million Wu-Tang Clan album from him. So it's like, I just feel like it really ties together a few different strings of insanity.
Absolutely. Lots of strings of insanity. Look, this has been our first news podcast. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you're watching it, you can get it on our Facebook page at Functional Forum and Evolution of Medicine every Saturday. We're going to start and doing it again in the next year. We'd love to hear from you if you liked it, if you thought it was, if it was good. And also, we said before, community is the guru of the future. That's a Thich Nhat Hanh quote. And we'd love to have you, our community listeners, to contribute to this. So if you have news stories that you think are funny or interesting, please send them to news@goevomed.com. That's news@goevomed.com. Hopefully, as things come across in your world, you just send them to us and we'll have a large selection of things to do every week. But thanks so much for listening. And thanks again to HealthWave, one of our great sponsors, for sponsoring it. They are now offering a 40% margin. If you go online, you can build your whole inventory on there. It's super efficient. Any last words, Gabe?
Well, I would just say, for those that want to share the news, share what's interesting to you. These are articles that James and I mean, there are a lot of important things going on in the world. These are relevant and things that we thought were interesting to talk about with each other. So we're bringing them to you. And, I'm sure we will never run out of this because this is every day there's some new news. So
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for listening. This has been the Evolution of Medicine weekly videocast. I'm your host, James Maskell, and we'll see you next time.